introduce you guys.
Yeah. Zelko, you can find me on Twitter, BTCXZelko. I'm one of the co-founders of Ronin Dojo, and started to help out with these Bitcoin OTC meetups, or the OC BTC meetups, and really enjoy it. I've gotten to meet these guys a couple of times now in person, and it's always fun. It's good to get around with some of these guys in the space and talk about Bitcoin, and especially when we're talking about nodes, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really smart people, and especially with the nodl team, I'm excited to talk to Keto and ask about just the ins and outs and the decisions you guys made. And it's gonna be an interesting talk for sure. You guys are a well-respected company in the space, so this will be exciting.
Yeah, so we're still trying to get things going on YouTube, but yeah, Keto, Ask You, we are very glad to have you here with us. You guys want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you got going on at nodl?
Sure. So we are actually the whole team of nodl. It's been now more than 2 years that we are selling for nodes. It's been slightly more that we are working on it. And yes, as you mentioned, meetups are important. That's how we met. When we met, we had no idea if and what we would be doing together. But yeah, after meeting several times, we finally decided to. Actually, we jumped on another venture first, which didn't work out, and then we decided to continue and do boxes.
Yeah. We met a lot of people during the meetups. Some of them I think will probably be good friends for the foreseeable future, if not more. But like you said, when we met at first, he recommended me to someone else. Then he joined after. So we had a first kind of venture for a few months together and other people. And we just decided to do something else ourselves. Life happens like that. It was unforeseen, but so far it's been lots of fun.
Excellent, serendipitous.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about these guys, like a part of OC Bitcoin Network. No, like everyone has really become like good friends, and it's been cool. And we've all we're in each other's lives, and we talk about Bitcoin, talk about other stuff. So yeah, it is cool.
Good stuff. So the focus of nodl's business, right, is like bringing Bitcoin nodes to the world, democratizing, financial sovereignty, to use that word, right? But really just like full control over your Bitcoin and over your money. Is that how you all would characterize the mission?
I think it started smaller.
Yeah, it's definitely what it is now. Now nodl is a platform because it's not on your box anymore. It's a platform with all the services you need to run your Bitcoin life without using third-party applications or websites or anything.
Yeah.
It started just as a full node. I just wanted to build. I was totally unknown in the space, but somehow we managed to sell 21 boxes. I have even some early posts to build. I was totally somewhere from one of our first customers. But somehow we managed to sell 21 comparison boxes. Table with I have even some early posts nodes on the market and why he chosen to buy this one and we managed to sell 21 comparison table. And that's how it started. Then the Telegram group started growing. We started going to more and more conferences, and high-profile Bitcoiners were coming into our group. Our first customer, but somehow we built some trust, and I mean, yeah, now we are less unknown in the space.
Yeah, word of mouth, basically, that's how it happened. And that's all it is so far. But
I love the scarcity element, 21 units.
Yeah, that's how it started. It was funny, but some people that we respected a lot, who know more than we do or we did, and chose to purchase one and said good things about it. So, I mean, stupid, but if someone makes you feel good about yourself, you're a little more inclined to push forward. And that's all was for us. A lot of people saying nice things. Eventually, we looked at each other and we were like, okay, let's do it. You know, we weren't sure we were going to do it. It wasn't the plan.
I think it's something really cool about this space is just that emphasis on like integrity and quality when it comes to products. Like even if you are a pseudonymous person or someone brand new to the space, if you just build and, you know, then people will kind of evaluate that on its merit, right? And if there's a big household name brand company that comes into the space and they make a product, they're just subject to like the same level of scrutiny as some engineer who decides to tinker with something and build something. It's very meritocratic, I think, and that's super cool.
Yeah, and that's actually how we met. How we talked the first time was he actually built the device, like a precursor to all these nodes that was on a table. I saw it blinking when I was walking in the bar at the meetup in Paris, so very local, you know. And I stopped and I asked a question, and that's how we got to know each other, you know. And that's how we got more people to see the product when we went to conferences and had it on the table, and people asked questions, and we got to talk to people.
And then it was in Prague at HCPP 18. Someone went to the guys from WCN and said like, you should have these guys on the stream.
Yeah, and then he ends up on YouTube, and you know,
the rest is history.
Were a lot of those early questions from people in the meetup that were already running nodes, or was this their first time? Like, what kind of questions were they asking? Were they asking intro level questions about why and like what does it do, or they already had that paradigm?
And then it was in Prague at HCPP. I guess in these early days, most of the people already knew what it is and just like wanted a ready-to-use solution because they were too lazy or too busy to build it themselves. Also, a lot of collectors, you know, like, I mean, my guesstimate is that from probably the first year of sales, about half of the boxes are not unpacked. The same as I have a collection of hardware wallets, which I will never use, just because people are buying any new products in the space to have it for fun or to support the project or whatever reason.
Yeah, I do think there's a big gap because there's people who either know what it is, are running one on a computer actually at the time, and people who had no clue what it was and what a node was, period. Know what it is, are running one, and there was no and people very big no clue what it was and what a node was, period. Know what it is.
The timing of Lightning was very good for us because Lightning is basically one good reason to run your node if you don't want to use a custodial service. Yeah, and I think that was driving sales and the BTC Pay integration. We have people just running their business on the node.
I was actually going to say that the way that you describe it as a platform, and not just a node is actually an easier like paradigm for my brain to understand, because when I think of like a desktop computer, like when I tried to run Core for the first time, I went and I don't own a desktop. Like a desktop is something my dad owned, you know, and so I never owned a desktop. So I go to the beat up computer store down the street and buy just the whatever tower I can get for $100, bring it home, and I just like try to run Core for the first time, and I run into Windows blue screens and just everything else that you run into just running a tower, right? And so that was my like early try at like doing the next step or whatever. And so like a node is just a computer. Like it's a computer that stays on 24/7 with bare bones. Like, and so I don't know, like if like, I think some people need it just explained to them like just like that. Like it's just a 24/7 bare bones computer that can run like every Bitcoin app that you need. And like the way that you keep adding more and more Bitcoin apps is cool.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's, I think, what we said at first. We called it like dedicated, always on device. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you have your NAS for storing your computer backup. If you're like an advanced user, you have a router and you have your phone node, the same category of device.
Yeah, so with that, right, you guys, obviously like the single board computers is kind of what you guys went with, right? So like, how did you guys decide, or like, what was like the transformation, I guess, from your first nodal product, and then how did you guys decide like what hardware you guys were going to use, and what other like options were you guys looking at? I know it's a fun
So
question.
the
A lot
very
of time.
first one, the one over which we met, was a Raspberry Pi Zero.
Oh shit.
Because it was still possible to run a full node on Raspberry Pi Zero. The blockchain was about 70 gigs, so it had the 128 gigs SSD. And I just packaged it into an external hard drive case. So you had the SSD in the bottom and the Raspberry Pi Zero glued on top of it and soldered, hardwired to the SSD directly.
Holy shit.
So that was the first one. And then I just left it sitting in a corner for probably 6 months. And what happened is one day I tried to SSH in and it didn't respond. So I started looking what was fried, and actually all the components were.
Yeah.
So I figured let's use something bigger. And I guess at the time the best Raspberry Pi was the Raspberry Pi 2. So I tried to rebuild it with Raspberry Pi 2 and any possible storage I could have. Western Digital, the hard drive company, was making dedicated hard drives for Raspberry Pis. And so that the first one I tried, it was painfully slow. It took like, I don't know, 2 months to sync probably. So I just started iterating from that and trying probably 20 different single board computers and 3 types of storage: SSD, SSHD, which is a hard drive with a SSD cache integrated on it, and pure hard drive. And the only device that gave me really satisfaction, I could sync in less than 48 hours, was the combination of a USB 3 enabled board, which Raspberry Pi was not at the time, and an SSD. So my specifications for the full node were it has to be able to do the IBD in less than 2 days on a standard internet connection.
And that's the IBD is initial block download, right? So for people out there not familiar with running full nodes, whatever implementation you choose, the first step is typically like boot it up, and then it takes a long time to download the blockchain.
Then it downloads. Now it's probably 250 gigabytes of something very close to torrent.
Gotcha.
And so at first, the choice was like the 48 hours because we wanted to push something that had no data on it. So you had to do the download yourself.
Yeah, and so how the nodal system worked at on this first release is first it was just coming with the nodal UI to install and start all the services, but there was no Bitcoin pre-installed, there was no LND pre-installed. Everything was pulled. The binaries were pulled from the official repositories. And basically the install script was like following the best practice of installing Bitcoin, verifying the checksums, verifying the signatures, and if everything is correct, then it was starting it. So the only thing preloaded was the UI and the PGP keys signing the Bitcoin and LND packages.
Gotcha.
But you have to start somewhere. You have to have some root of trust somewhere. So that was the compromise.
Right. And you guys have transitioned since then, though, right? Because you guys ship like the IBD is already done now, right?
Yeah. So now it's already done. After long discussions with people from Raspberry Bleeds, from Bitbox Base, and others, we finally agreed that maybe it's not such a big deal, because anyway, when you do the IBD with standard parameters, it doesn't verify up to the how is it called?
Assume valid.
Assume valid, yeah, assume valid block. So it only verifies like the last hundreds or thousands of blocks. And anyway, if you run the software you're supposed to run, if you run the correct version of Bitcoin D and you connect it to the Bitcoin network, it will refuse the blocks if you are not running the correct blockchain. So in the worst case, if somehow the blockchain would be altered on the box we ship, people could just wipe it and resync anyway. So
yeah,
and they would detect it pretty easily. I mean, after 2 blocks, you would see that the progress is not moving.
Gotcha. Would you say, how technical would you say that someone has to be successful with one of the nodl devices? Is there command line expertise required? Is it kind of web GUI point and click?
It's a web GUI. It's not very pretty because I made it. But currently how the setup process looks is you get the box, you get a network wire, you get a power supply adapter, you plug it into your router. So the only thing you need is a router with Ethernet ports and 1 port free on the router. You connect it, and then you get a sheet on which you get the unique name of the device. That's something which was actually asked by a couple of our users on Twitter. They didn't want the ISP's router to know that there is a device called nodl running on the network. So we started generating random names, which are 2 words, .local. And each device has a unique name. So you type this name into your browser. And then, as you're probably familiar with that, when you connect through HTTPS to a router or to some local device, the certificate is invalid because it's self-signed. So the way we mitigate that is that on the same paper, your browser shows you like the fingerprint of the certificate to verify that it's legitimate, and you get the fingerprint printed out in the box. So you check that, and then you're in the UI of the device. Usually you can just approve the certificate once and your browser will remember it. And you can just forget about this. And yeah, and then you just set an admin password for the UI, and all you have to do is click on install and start buttons, and you have all your services running.
Okay, I'll answer the same question. If I can do it, anyone can do it. No command line.
No command line expertise required. Very
no
cool.
command line required at all, theoretically, for the setup.
But if you want to, you can do things through the command line. And actually, there is an increasing amount of things you can do from the command line. I'm trying like to have an API sitting between the UI and the system itself. So any action you can do through the UI, you will be able to do with simple commands. For example, like start Bitcoin, stop Bitcoin, start Lightning, stop Lightning. All these will be available as commands as well. So because some people don't want to open the UI to the outside, and they want to do everything through SSH access from a remote location, for example. So
yeah, it seems like you guys have struck a pretty cool balance between abstracting away a lot of the technical scary stuff from people who might not be an expert, but at the same time leaving it so that if someone is an expert and they do want to tinker or they want to tweak things on their own, then it's possible. And you all have given a lot of thought to security features like the host name that you mentioned and things like that.
It's your device and it's powerful. So if you know what you're doing, you can do whatever you want. It's yours.
Yeah.
You know,
by the way, quick side note, for people tuning in, apologies that if you're watching this on YouTube, you might not have caught the beginning of this. We had some technical difficulties for the first 10 minutes or so, but we are live on YouTube now as well. So we will figure out how to get the complete segment uploaded. But feel free to drop any questions that you all have about full nodes, about nodl. We've got the experts here, and we also have a deal with Samurai. So Samurai's Dojo Whirlpool mixing software is great stuff, and we've got a discount code for that you probably already see streaming across the screen. But Zelko, do you want to talk about that and kind of summarize how people can use that if they want to?
Yeah, so you can do that through the mobile app. We're actually, someone should have posted it on Twitter, but in the mobile app, you just go to the Whirlpool, when you actually connect to Whirlpool, and then if you hit the top right 3 buttons, you should see a drop down that says add S code. It'll restart the CLI, and then I always go back in and confirm that it's still there. So do that same process, and you should see the S code red beast, and that'll give you the 30% off any of your TX zeros. So that initial mix that you pay for, give you 30% off, and then it goes until tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So your TX0 needs to be confirmed by 9 p.m. Tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time. Otherwise, it'll get all wonky, and then you'll have to contact support. But yeah, that's
so cool.
fun.
So yeah, if you have Bitcoin out there, install Samurai Wallet on your Android device, and you will get 30% off for the next 24 hours plus some 24 and some change. If you've never tried it before, you don't need any fancy software, just the app, and 30% off of your mixes for the next 24 hours with the code RedBeast. Cool stuff.
And to go back to
This is the Red Beast.
And hence the name. So yeah, let's explain the name. So that code is RedBeast, and now we are seeing the RedBeast. Tell us about it.
Just to come back to the SBC story. So the SBC we ended up using in the first node was the ROC64 from a company called Pine64. Many people are aware of it. It's not the ROC64 Pro, it's the non-Pro version, which has only 4 cores. It's actually the same specs as the Raspberry Pi 4 has now, more or less. And what happened is I have a box of 80 SBCs that don't work and that the manufacturer won't replace. Because if you just try to run like your web server on them, they work no problem. If you try to run Bitcoin on them, they make calculation errors and fail to validate blocks. So it's always funny when people are like trying to run this on ROC64. And by the way, that's why OpenArms kept this particular model of board in his port. Is that, yeah, you have basically you have a 20% chance to end up with a non-working node after a few hours of synchronizing.
Wow.
So we went on the market to look for something to replace that, and we ended up with the current board, which is basically what the ROC64 Pro would be if it was the size of a Raspberry Pi.
Gotcha.
So you guys are using the Rock Pro 64 though, right? Is that what you said?
So now it's a Rock Pi 4A.
Oh, you're using the Rock.
Yeah,
okay.
Chinese are crazy about the names.
So when people if they're interested in getting one of the RedBeasts and they've got their nodl full node device, and then you think about how they use Bitcoin day to day, right? So maybe they've got Samurai Wallet, maybe they've got some other wallet or a hardware wallet like a Trezor or a Ledger. Do those interface with nodl? Can you like use nodl with hardware wallets? Do you have recommendations for mobile wallets to kind of connect to it and use?
So basically any wallet that allows you to use your custom node or through their software or through Electrum. For hardware wallets, actually, I think Electrum will be the best way to go, unless you want to use Wasabi, which is another story. But yeah, so Samurai Wallet connects directly to the Dojo subsystem of the nodl, which is the Samurai Wallet backend software. And basically, most of the other wallets will be connecting to the Electrum server running on the box.
Gotcha. And then do users need to run an Electrum client as well? Like if you have a Trezor that maybe people listening have like bought Bitcoin, withdrew it from Cash App or wherever, and they've got it sitting on a Trezor, do they also need like the Electrum client on a laptop?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then
so the way
they would effectively point that client at the nodl device, right?
Yeah.
So I guess for a lot of our users, that might be less tech savvy or Bitcoin savvy. When they got the nodl, one of the first things they kind of understood was, especially running like using like ledgers or Trezors, they used the Ledger or Trezor apps. And once they got the nodl, they had the Electrum running on their personal computers that was plugged in, like you said, like connected back to the nodl. They stopped using the, Ledger Live, and the Trezor backends to check their UTXOs. And they saw what they didn't necessarily understand before was the privacy gain that you had once you started running your own hardware. And that was the first thing for most of the users at first. They were like, okay, wait, I didn't realize how much data I was sharing with Ledger or Trezor before. I stopped doing it. And that was the first thing I think that really people caught on with. And it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that it takes a little bit for some. It took me a long time to realize that, right? I felt good about controlling my own keys when I withdrew Bitcoin to a hardware wallet, and I thought I was just golden from there. But there's kind of another level of when you're transacting, you are trusting Trezor's servers if you're just using the default software, or Ledger servers if you're using the default software, and
so it's like checking your bank account with someone looking over your shoulder. You know, might not be something you want, might not be that harmful if no one does anything. The real question is the day they have a problem and they have all that information on you, you're screwed.
Yeah, or it's like you know, you're trusting the bank to verify all your stuff. You know, like
it's not so much the verification to me. It's like,
I mean,
I'll see your history. You know.
Yeah, because it's effectively, like, the technical term, right, for the file, I suppose, that they get access to is your XPub, and or your YPub or ZPub or whatever, and then from that they can see not only your balances and addresses that you've got right now, but also every address you could ever generate, right? So
that's probably what most people don't realize, is that giving the XPub to someone is not only the past transaction, but also the future.
Yep.
That's a big one. You know, XPubs are forever, right? So at least as long as you use that wallet. So I have a question. So you showed off the Red Beast, right? So that got released last year, right?
HCPP 19, October last year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know nodl was like super hyped about it, and obviously like the rest of the Samurai community was really, really big on that. What you know, obviously Samurai strikes a chord with a lot of the Twitterverse, whoever you want to call them, the rest of the community. So to me, like, if I'm looking at it from a business perspective, I think that could have been, you guys were kind of like neutral. You guys were like you know, we use Lightning. We're that like full node for everybody. You guys were very neutral in that aspect. It seems like that would be kind of like a risky business move. So why did you guys decide to do that partnership? What kind of what drove you guys in that direction?
I think it just makes sense. Like, I feel it made sense to us, the two of us, and it made sense to like Samurai and DDev. When, I mean, we sat down and talked about like what we thought about their stuff and vice versa, and we saw a natural fit. And I don't think there's anything controversial or risky about it, really.
I mean, it's hard to please everyone in the Bitcoin space.
But we're not about pleasing anyone.
An understatement.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's definitely not about pleasing everybody, and I think you made a good point. But you know, and that's just like one of those things that I see. You know, it's you guys almost come off kind of unscathed from what I've seen on the Twitterverse when it comes to that. Where
well, we don't really play Twitter much. I'm sure we could do it much better, but we don't spend a lot of time on Twitter.
Which is probably
we don't get caught in, and we don't care about it really.
And you know, also there's one thing, like at the time, like Whirlpool was becoming a thing, and it made sense to have a mixer running on an always on device. And it was either the red one or the green one, and the green one was not ready to run on a headless device, and I think it's still not. So there was only one choice.
So, you
and
know,
not even entering in all the debates if one is better than the other, because, you know.
Plus, I think really it comes down to, like, we'll sit down with them once in a while, have drinks, and anything we say to each other kind of makes sense. Like, we get it.
It's really,
they get it.
It's really people with who we humanly fit very well. Yeah, we really like being around.
So
it seems like there's probably ideological alignment around, you know, what's important about this stuff. privacy
Also the fact that both entities are not really companies, like registered companies. No, we have like
Yeah.
the same view of
We
the
probably
business.
operate the same way.
Those are just people.
What word would you use? Like a movement or like mission? Like what would you use? Just
Not a
crew?
company.
We don't use a word because like we were, you know, when we were talking just before the meetup started, we said last time we actually met them was the night like Samurai Wallet came on your pod. I mean for your meetup. They released mobile mixing that day, and so we were talking. And one of the goals we had, so that was just before the coronavirus, maybe a month or two before, we were actually talking about organizing a few events. I don't know if we'd call them events, but like gatherings, meetups, whatever you want to call them. They wouldn't be like Bitcoin meetups. They would be, I don't know, meetups. We kind of understand what we want without having a word for it, but like gatherings where we share certain, I don't know, thoughts or maybe it's ideology. I don't know what it is.
You can almost sense like shared values in the people there.
Yeah, in a way, like we all aspire to be free. We don't really care what other people say. We're just trying to live normally and have a decent life. And it goes further than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a big part of it, obviously, but it goes further than that. And there's a lot of people who share those beliefs.
Right.
We just want to gather. That's it. You know.
That's what the Stoics did, the philosophers, the original, the greatest thing you can do is to know yourself. And I really liked how last time when we had the other crew on just talking about nodes to kind of set up this series about like, what is your goal? Like, why are you running Bitcoin? How are you using Bitcoin? And that was something when I, my first 2 attempts at running a node, I didn't have that clarified for me, like about what I was trying to do. And through, talking with people at the meetup and through kind of having a deeper understanding and honestly like coronavirus and like watching what's happening in the world has like really solidified a lot of my personal goals and like my philosophy of the people that I'm trying to interact with and do things with also. And like running hardware at your house that matches that is absolutely like a part of it. And that's why I like how there's good, I like how it carries multiple apps. And then I learned the other day, I was like, this is what a server is. Like I should be running my email at my house also. Like everything should have a server at your house. Like there should be a node for everything inside your house.
That's what the internet was designed to be.
Yeah. Because the cloud means someone else's computer.
All right, Brian. All right, you get very philosophical, Brian. I love it. I do have some.
We got a good balance of philosophy and technology.
Not your server, not your emails.
Yeah. All right.
Love it.
So some more nodal questions. All right. For you guys, what has been, you kind of answered on Twitter, but what's been like the most challenging project to implement into, I'll call it an ecosystem. What's been the most challenging to implement into the ecosystem, and which one, let's say which one's been like has been like the biggest payoff for you guys that you feel like?
So as I replied on Twitter, the most complicated thing to run on the nodl was BTC Pay server, and it's mostly my fault. So why BTC Pay server was running easily on the Raspberry Blitz or any Raspberry Pi based device and not on ours is because the architecture of the ARM processor we are using is installed in 64 bits mode only. And actually the version of .NET, which is the framework used by BTC Pay server to run, wasn't yet released by Microsoft for ARM64. So I had to run like 32 bits compatibility packages, which were breaking all the time. And that's why the older devices didn't get a BTC Pay update for a very long time, because I was expecting the 64-bit version of .NET to come out. It was announced and delayed like twice at least. And the other issue is most people run BTC Pay server on Postgres database.
Mhm.
We already have a MySQL database for all the nodl internal stuff, and I didn't want to run two database engines on the same box. And the MySQL support in BTC Pay is, let's say, it not very well tested because many people are using it. So it took me I mean, I was harassing Nicolas on Twitter a lot to fix it. He was trying to do it. Every time he fixed one place, it was breaking another one. So finally, in version 1.04 something, I made a pull request with the fix myself.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's really, like, of course, it's not a full-time work, but like it took me probably 1 year to have it well integrated the way I want.
Yeah. I mean, because it's a very it's a complicated mesh of systems with BTC Pay for sure. And I think it's kind of like funny almost that had like the Raspberry Pi 4 actually utilized its full capabilities, right? Like it has an ARM V8 like processor in there. Like there's no reason it could have run 64-bit. You know, like we use Manjaro, like you can run a 64-bit like software on there, but because it wasn't utilizing that across the board, like Raspberry Blitz and everybody else was using that 64 bit, they could run it compatibility with BTC Pay. It's actually kind of funny because there was really no reason. Like all of the single board computers were capable, like of standard, right? They were all capable of running 64-bit, and so I think that's funny. I didn't know that about.
Yeah, actually, the Raspberry Pi 3 was using exactly the same ARM cores as our CPU, except Raspbian took very long time to switch to 64 bits. So even if the device was capable of running 64 bits, they were running in 32 bits mode only for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. We got a pretty good question on YouTube too from Kurt. This one's kind of broad, but he doesn't own a nodl. He just wants to hear like the short pitch for why it's the best. Like if he's out there evaluating the different, the different options, what sets nodl apart from the alternatives?
Well, just before that, maybe like the whole discussion for the BTC Pay is like, why do you want to run a node at first? You get like privacy benefits and stuff like that. But the way you interact with Bitcoin, you get more options because you get more apps, etc. So that's why you want to run a node. You run a node because there's someone like this guy who actually makes it easy to do for you if you don't know what you're doing. And maybe the best reason to run an nodl is because this guy is actually the best at making nodes.
No,
that's my answer.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of open source software out there. There's so many apps, right? And so much software out there that can potentially be useful. But just like the individuals who are behind these making those decisions about which ones are trustworthy to incorporate into the project, and then making all of the usability decisions around like how it looks and feels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, all these boxes run the same software, give or take a few bricks. What makes ours different is that we spend a considerable time using it ourselves, which directly leads to detecting like some corner cases that others will probably not see or will take time to see. For example, in the beginning, we were updating things pretty fast because it was a very, very small user base, and we just needed to move fast. And now I prefer to be late on upgrading to Bitcoin D020 because I want to make sure that in 1 month, I will not have 50 users on Telegram telling me that when they put a particular string in a name of an invoice in BTC Pay server or in RTL, it actually breaks something, which is something that actually happened for other database reasons. Like if you were putting an item name in your POS application in BTC Pay server, which was more than that amount of characters, the Lightning invoice couldn't be stored in the database. So now it's stupid little things like that we are just using every day and testing every day. And yeah, I like to believe that we have maybe not the most up-to-date thing, maybe not the most comprehensive thing, but the best integration of all the components together.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that makes you guys super like attractive, or your guys will say competitive advantage from like a business perspective, or anyone that's like wants to run the node, you know that you're getting the most secure node device on the market. Like there is no better security than what Keto has actually done, because like you said, this is, you made just kind of like how Samurai is a wallet that they made for them because they wanted to use it. This is a node that you wanted to make for you, and obviously you're very a privacy oriented, security oriented person. So for all those people who are asking that question, like end of the day, you know that you're getting the most secure, most private node that you can get with the apps that he has. So that to me is the pitch.
Like Keto said, we're not a company, but we run as a company. We run on a nodl.
Yeah.
We only take Bitcoin. We don't take fiat. And that's what we use for our business.
Yeah.
So we trust it to run our own business.
And since you're talking about the security features, we can come back to the Red Beast. So first thing, I don't know if you can see them. This is the normal version. This is the red one. It's considerably bigger. And so it actually has two SSDs, and they are mirroring each other. So if you lose one drive, you can continue using your device and just replace the other one. It will rebuild the missing data. These SSDs are encrypted. So if someone steals your device and doesn't have your password, they will not be able to access the data on the device. And this is really important since we are embedding Whirlpool, because Whirlpool contains your private keys minus the password. I would not put my mixing, which can act on private keys, on an unencrypted device. That's as simple as that. And so next we started thinking, like, what could we do to make it harder for an attacker to get the keys anyway if the device is on? Because obviously when it's on, if you manage to access it and enter into the device when it's on, you can extract the keys. So it has a few other security features. The Kensington locks you use to attach your laptop to your desk at work. It has a Kensington lock port, which actually ties together the two parts of the case. So you have to unlock the Kensington lock to open the case. And if you get that far, there is a kill switch that will just turn off the device as soon as you open it. Okay. So
it's cool. It seems like you guys have thought through security at like every layer of the stack.
Thanks NVK for that idea, because it's something we talked about in Riga actually. It's small things like this, and so today you get them on the Red Beast, and very soon you will be getting the same features minus the red mirroring, because the black box has only one drive, but you will get encryption and the kill switch in the black box as well.
Nice.
Yeah, that's that adversarial thinking that I think is what's worth the pay. You guys are thinking of all the high and to the right.
Like he said, like NVK helped out for like an idea. Like if anybody has good ideas, or I mean, a lot of our users also give us ideas. We try to listen.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Another question.
Yeah, ultimately it will also become your CK Bunker server, because so CK Bunker is the special mode of the cold card wallet, which makes it an auto-signing device. You can set some rules. For example, don't sign more than that amount of transactions for that amount of Bitcoin per day. And anything you send to it over an API over Tor will be signed and sent back or broadcasted to the network. So you will be able to connect your cold card to the box, even put it inside the box, so you will benefit from the kill switch and from being not physically accessible, and you will have the CK Bunker software running also on the node. So the idea also why we made the new boxes bigger, the black box is actually slightly bigger than the previous one, is that we want to add hardware options that you can add inside the box.
That's cool. I like it. All right. I got other questions that are off topic that would have been on topic before we got interrupted with why nodl. So BTC Pay, right? So they just implemented, they just had that like the whole big pay join talk. Is it, I know that they, based on from what I've read, you need to, you know, you had to have the hot wallet. You couldn't do it with, if it was connected to your like just your XPub or whatever, it need to be like a live wallet to do the pay join. Is that something that nodl users can actually do right now if they wanted to? Is that an option for them, or is it because BTC Pay hasn't gotten there yet? You guys aren't there yet. It's obviously not you guys, but I was just curious.
We are probably like 1 or 2 releases behind that one.
Okay.
But now that we have a pretty recent one, the upgrade should be fairly easy.
Sweet.
So
Releases of BTC Pay server, right?
Yeah, you can't do it today, but it's a matter of a couple of months probably to have it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Does that in general, the pay join types of transactions that's centered around, do those, like as a concept, I assume that's something you guys are pretty supportive of and like to see and want to see supported on nodl in some other way, or how do you feel about those?
I mean, pay joins definitely are a good idea. Every spend should be a coin join of some sort.
Yeah.
Every spend should be a
There
coin
are some
join.
people who say that someone might try to probe your hot wallet as a merchant, and that might not be advisable to do that, to have the feature available as a merchant.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's very documented, but there's a few people who've mentioned that. Might be worth to dig into it more. I haven't personally, but I know Laurent talked about it a little bit.
I mean, the main issue I see about this page on implementation in BTC Pay server is that most people run it on a cheap VPS server and with no encryption and no security at all. And it basically means that you have a hot wallet, so there are private keys there. So I would rather have this running on an encrypted device than on a cheap public server.
So that's like, yeah, so if as an example, somebody created one of those nodes on say Amazon EC2 or Azure Microsoft, then, you know, unless you take extra steps to encrypt that data, then potentially sysadmins or employees, whoever has visibility into that, might be able to access private keys in some scenarios.
Yeah, and actually any steps you would take to encrypt the data anyway, the admin of the server has access to the unencrypted data. So.
Gotcha.
All right. Let's see. So this one is a little different. So you guys are, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for your guys' source code, it's available upon, like once, it's available for users, correct? To be able to go back and verify your guys' source code to make sure that everything looks good on their side, right? But it's, which open source like licenses that fall under, and then like what was your thought process behind that one?
So that used to be true until about a month ago. Actually, now if you go to our GitLab server, the repository, the repository which is running the production code deployed to the devices is public, and the license is MIT.
Okay, so you guys made the transition from like the,
yeah, we opened it silently because I mean, the only reason it was not public is because I'm ashamed of the shitty way it's coded, and I didn't want people to see it. But I think it was time to do that. I always said, like, when we reach 0.1, we will do it, so we just did.
Awesome.
No, the code is shitty though.
Yeah. I was always curious because, you know, that's like one of those big things that everyone wants to talk about, but I understand.
The only two things
why you're saying, like,
yeah.
You know.
The only two things which are not public are our internal deployment scripts, which we use to install the devices, because there is no point in releasing them. It's just running a bunch of apt-get commands and partitioning drives and shit, so it's not really interesting. And the other one is what we call the nodl Bootstrap. It's a piece of software that is running on the unencrypted part, and which is dealing with the decryption and mounting the encrypted partitions. But it's the same. The reason is the same. It's just because it's not like public ready code, but it should be open pretty soon.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember that. Like, I remember having a conversation with you about this like a long time ago. But that's a good explanation, and I can understand when you feel like your code isn't up to the level to which that you want it to look. But that's interesting. And then, all right, my last big one before I gotta go. So you guys obviously have CoinJoin. You guys are big supporters of CoinJoin. What is your thoughts on future implementing, something like Join Market or Wasabi to your guys' stack or option for users?
So we had a talk with Adam in Malta, with both Adams. Joint market was on this plan and somehow slipped out of it. I have no idea why, just because of me having a day job, probably. Yeah. But it's definitely something we can add pretty easily. And again, with the encrypted device, it's probably something we can do now.
And part of the build philosophy at first was to say you can put several tools, even if they serve the same purpose, and the user can do whatever he wants. Right. I mean, it's not our choice. If they want it, use it, Yeah,
how I was seeing the UI of the nodl initially, actually, the tiles, we have tiles for each service, same as my node has. And so the idea was like you have a Bitcoin tile, and then you go inside the settings and you can choose the implementation of Bitcoin you want to run. So Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Nodes, BTCD, LibBitcoin, or whatever else. And then same for Lightning, you could choose between LND, C Lightning. But then we decided to concentrate on only one implementation, which is, I mean, it's not one size fits all because we have 3 Electrum servers running on all those devices. But yeah, we are trying like to keep it small for now because we are a small team and we want to have, but ultimately we will probably go back to this idea to have like the choice between multiple implementations for every service. And that opens the way to something like Wasabi. Why not? Like I said, last time I checked, the support for headless operation was partial at best. But if someone tells me that today it's really ready, why not?
Gotcha. As far as the apps that you all do support, what's the software update strategy? Like, I guess, how does support work for nodl, first of all? And then in terms of all the apps, do those updates made available for those? Can users kind of select like, oh, I want to update this component like BTC Pay Server, but not this other one? Or what's the process like there?
We used to have an update button for each separate service. So the way it worked, you update the nodl UI, and this contains the, let's call it packages for the updates. And even update for Bitcoin D is available in this nodl update. You would get an upgrade button on the tile, and you stop your service, you upgrade and start your service. That led to a big support work because of that version of LND being incompatible with that version of Bitcoin D being incompatible with that version of RTR and so on. So now we switched, I don't know if it's good or bad, but for just a support work point of view, we switched to Monolithic Upgrades. So when you upgrade your whole nodl, let's call it OS, it upgrades all the services at the same time, just to make sure that this version of that works with this version of that other service.
That makes sense, because I imagine there are a lot of opportunities for just these cascading effects, right? Where one version of something changes on one side and then it like ripples through the other software and breaks something somewhere else. So I could see that being a maintenance nightmare.
And also, it's been 2 years we are shipping boxes, and some people have very old versions running on their box.
3 different models.
3 different models, and you have to make sure that at any point in time when anyone clicks on the upgrade button, he will start from some unknown state and end up in some known state.
Yep, absolutely.
So it doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to click twice. But at the end of the day, I think all the users are pretty happy with how it works now.
Yeah, it sounds small, but like that level of reliability, like the engineering work required to achieve that, is a lot.
Through 30 versions, and so if you look in the code for the nodl OG, you actually see all the consecutive updates, because if someone is still running 0.0.1, it has to go to 0.1.0 through all the versions between. So yeah, writing the upgrade process so it can be killed at any point, resume or restart and recover to a known state was the most complicated thing.
Makes sense. A question that kind of ties into that from Bitcoin Q&A. Shout out to Bitcoin Q&A, by the way, producing some awesome content out there. Yeah. Does the nodl team have any plans for other hardware or software like apps that you see you might implement in the future? We kind of touched on a couple of the CoinJoin ones. Anything else that you all are evaluating?
Just before we started the meetup, we were talking with Paul from Sphinx Chat, and as soon as the client side is ready, because we want to run the connection between the mobile phone and the nodl over Tor. So as soon as we have Tor support in both the Android and the iOS Sphinx Chat client, we will push the Sphinx Chat relay software to the nodl. So you will be able to use your Lightning node with KeySend to chat and participate in groups and pay for paid content and do all kinds of cool things Sphinx does.
That concept seems awesome.
People might not know is, like, apart from the hardware side of things, we actually do a few other things. We have a cloud offering that's going to come out, but we actually run nodes for other people. We do run nodes for Sphinx, for example, to test out what it means to chat over Lightning, what it means to have those decentralized and like censorship resistant communication tools, etc. These are businesses that we believe in, that we try to kind of want to support as an infrastructure provider. So apart from the hardware devices that we ship to individuals, we actually have another part of our business that's providing infrastructure for individuals or companies that want to run other apps too. And so we have plans along those lines too.
Awesome to hear. Zelko, I think you got to drop soon. Any parting words?
I mean, not much, just other than, you know, it was really awesome talking to you guys, because, you know, you guys have been the pinnacle, as long as I've been, you know, messing around with nodes and, you know, in the space, which hasn't been that long, but you guys have been like the pinnacle and the standard, I think, as far as full nodes go. And you know, obviously, like, I hope you guys continue to crush it, and always glad to see the red beast. And yeah, I'm just I wish I could stay longer, but you know, I got some family stuff to take care of, so I'll let you guys continue, and I'll talk to you guys later. All right,
sounds good.
Yeah, hopefully we have one of those local meetups where we can meet and have a drink.
One of these days. Southern California is the Citadel.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. Nice. I had a question too around the networking model. So you touched a lot on some of the differentiation that you guys have for the physical layer, just in terms of the kill switch and all that. At the network layer, you mentioned the unique name generation, which is pretty sweet. Remind me, I know that you all support Tor for the services, but with like Bitcoin D, is it Tor only, or is it like, but do you have the option of also using ClearNet, or can you use both?
All the current devices shipped are shipped in a Tor only mode by default, because once your Bitcoin D or LND touches the ClearNet, the identity stays remembered by the network. So it's always better to start with Tor, and if you don't need it or don't want it, or because with your ISP Tor is too slow and you can't use it, you can switch back on the ClearNet.
Gotcha. Good to know. So kind of maximum privacy setting by default, and if people want to ratchet that the other direction for whatever reason they can.
Still not perfect. For example, like system updates go over ClearNet. Downloads from GitHub go over ClearNet, but we're working on that, and I would like to add like 2 levels of paranoia modes, with the biggest one being like any outgoing ClearNet connections blocked at the system firewall level, that even if you wanted to, you would not be able to exit and connect to anything not over Tor.
Nice. Makes sense. Another question from the chat, is Bisq one of the apps? And is Bisq supported?
Yeah.
So, and for people who don't know, yeah, Bisq is an awesome way to trade peer-to-peer Bitcoin.
So you can use Bisq with the Bitcoin D running on the nodl. It's an option in Bisq. You can connect to your own node. What you can't yet do, it was actually it was a very node plan for Bisq to like split the application in 2 pieces, like a backend and a front end. Kind of what Whirlpool is actually. Whirlpool, you get the Whirlpool CLI, which is the always running part, and you get Whirlpool GUI, which is also remote control. You can just open it to mess around with your coins and close it, and the CLI will continue mixing. And Bisq had a similar idea to split the, like, let's call the server side and the client side. But as far as I know, that was like killed maybe 2 years ago, and no one like really pursued this thing. So it's the same kind of situation as for Wasabi. If it can run in a totally headless mode, and you can connect with a Bisq client to the Bisq server to manage it, then yes, we can integrate it. But in the current situation of Bisq, we can't. You can just use the nodl as your custom node, but you can't run Bisq and have it always on the nodl itself.
I see.
Got it. Well, that'd be cool. I mean, no one needs me to say that, but that would be cool, because one of the like limitations for me, keeping my Bisq offers open, is the same thing. When I tried to run Core for the first time, don't have a dedicated computer, so can't do it. That's why I need a node, and that's why I have to go through this series and figure out which one matches me. And so yeah, like that's so can you list off all the apps that it does have then? And like, so when we say that it has BTC Pay, then like Steven showed me the front end of BTC Pay the other day, where you can make your tip jars and make your stores. Is that so would I still need his help setting up my tip jar at my website, or you're saying once I plug and play the nodl, open the BTC Pay app, then I'm at that screen also to where I'm ready to make my tip jar for my website?
You are at the screen where you have to set up your stores, wallets, and everything.
Okay, cool.
So you get the web interface and all that kind of out of the box with the nodl, right?
And BTC Pay has a lot of documentation, and a lot of users, and a user base. And what's true for us is also true for them. And in other apps in the space, is you go on those Telegram channels, you ask a question, you get a ton of help from other users. And that's how a lot of our support is done. That's a lot of how, Samurai does the same thing. Like, their users are phenomenal. It requires some effort on everybody's, part, and you as a user will have some effort to do, but like BTC Pay is really not that difficult.
Yep.
And there's a ton of help available.
So can you so what are all your apps? Just list all of them.
So Bitcoin D, LND, RTL, BTC RPC Explorer, which is a block explorer, BTC Pay server, and the Dojo server, and Whirlpool CLI. I think that's it.
Yeah, and then users can use some of their wallets depending on what wallet they use, with the nodl as the backend.
Yeah, you were mentioning Bisq, and another application that actually requires running always on is if you run a store on OpenBazaar. And OpenBazaar is actually very well made to be running on a headless device because it's a web store kind of thing. So it was designed from the beginning to run on the server, and you connect with the OpenBazaar client to that server to manage it when you need. So one thing I would probably integrate at some point is OpenBazaar as well. So you can have like your OpenBazaar BTC Pay server mixing all this background things happening.
That's cool. Yeah, the OpenBazaar project, I feel like kind of fell into the background. I haven't heard as much buzz about it in the last couple of years from the community, but at least in like my day-to-day Twitter observations. But the spirit of the project, like a decentralized marketplace, seems awesome.
Yeah, the project is awesome, and if you make some searches on it, you actually find some pretty well-known brands of the Bitcoin space selling things there. They are probably not selling anything, but they are present and they have a like shop. Yeah, but I don't think it has much activity.
That's cool. Yeah, gotcha. Really good question from the chat about full nodes more broadly. Why does it look like the node counts are going down, or at least not going up as much as we want them to, right? So in theory, the more people out there are running full nodes, the more decentralized the network is, the better it is for Bitcoin. I haven't personally checked graphs in a while, but I think I saw something where it's either like decreasing or staying kind of flat, like not going up as much as we all would love it to. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I guess part of it is because more and more people are running behind Tor, and it's much harder to count Tor nodes than KernNet nodes.
Like maybe also, number is actually going up and it's just hard to measure.
Yeah, maybe the number is actually going up.
It probably is.
And many websites counting nodes are actually have some, for example, that earn.com bitnodes page clearly has some issues connecting to some nodes, because some nodes that we know very well are running because we are using them are not present on it, and when you enter your address, it doesn't reach it. So
yeah. Yeah, I guess you can kind of do functional verification of whether you're being counted if you're actually operating.
We don't see all of our nodes there.
And same for Lightning. Many mobile clients moved to one private channel, so these ones are not visible in the graph anyway. Yeah, I'm not positive that the number is actually going down, but it's probably not going up very fast.
It's not something we look at either.
Yeah, we don't. And I mean, also, we lost some competition, so maybe people are buying less nodes.
Yeah, I think that's one concern, right, is complacency. Like if people don't perceive some threat or aren't reminded of the purpose of full nodes, then, you know, will individuals get lazy? But
for me, it right down to, I mean, I don't know if this is relevant to this discussion, but in my opinion, I think it is. Like for me, running a node became a lot more relevant to me when I started thinking about like earn, save, and spend Bitcoin. Like, and because when I was just thinking about one aspect or one bucket of that, I didn't want to spend the money on getting a node, or even spend the time on building one. I like that how we said that last week was like, you're either going to spend time building it or money getting it. Like you're going to pay to get it, and there's reasons why it's important, and those reasons will be more evident to you based on what your goals are. Like, and so I've been feeling myself like going through that live of like, why do I want this?
Hey, so, Bitcoin's pretty new, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are gonna probably give us a good opportunity to want more Bitcoin and less of, I don't know, governments, and have better reasons for running that kind of stuff for ourselves. So I'm not too worried about the incentives for people to run nodes, because I think they're just going to get bigger.
Yeah, and you know, the price of Bitcoin is not doing much recently, so maybe people just got bored and not very interested in it. But I believe, now we are doing some projections for the future, and I think we have some very conservative numbers, because I mean, one day we will wake up and it will be 10x or 100x in sales for us, just because some group of people will start understanding what's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you, in terms of the way that you all engage the community right now, it sounds like there's like Telegram for kind of day-to-day support. If people own a nodl and they need help using it, then there's probably a Telegram group. Anyone who just like wants to learn more about the business, maybe they don't own one and they just have questions, or they're interested, is that the right way for them to start talking to you all, or is there a better way?
We have 2 Telegram groups, one for like general discussion, let's call it pre-sales, even if it's more like all our friends and all the people we work with day to day to integrate their software. And we have the support channel, which is a separate thing. And we're also present on Keybase, but I think we have like 2 people in the group.
Yeah.
We used to have a Slack, but we killed that, and everything was happening
It's
on
Twitter or
Telegram anyway.
Telegram.
So yeah,
Twitter or Telegram or email.
Yeah.
Twitter, Telegram, or
we
email.
get probably the most like general questions through email now.
Yeah.
Can you go over your cost? So how much does the black one cost? The red, how much does the red one cost? And then what's shipping time to the US?
So for the red one is currently not on sale because we have some supplies issues which we are trying very hard to solve. The black one is shipping usually now in 1 or 2 weeks after the order. We have a few left for $4.99, which was the introductory price. And shipping to the US costs about $60 and takes 48 hours to 3 days if you're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
The record is Paris to New York, shipped the evening in Paris, delivered the next morning in New York.
Wow,
That's impressive.
A 12-hour block download. Physical.
On the other side of the spectrum, just to maybe say thank you, if any one of them is listening, we have customers who before the coronavirus ordered a node. Some of them had to wait 4 months to get them because we ran into crazy logistical issues in getting hardware from China. So some people actually ordered a product and had to wait 4 months, and they waited. Some of them, asked to cancel, but very few. And we're very thankful to, them for waiting that long and being very gracious about it, because, it was a struggle for us to try to do the best, but it was hard. And people were really nice about it, and we appreciate that.
So somehow in the Bitcoin space, people are more forgiving and more patient than in many other places.
It's a circular economy of grace.
Yeah.
So how's business now then? Like, do you feel like you're back to a good place? And do you feel what's the timeline for the red one being available again?
So yeah, I think we're in a good place. I think we went back and forth about it for a year, and we were very hesitant. Sometimes we try to push a little bit, sometimes we didn't. We're in the place right now where we decided to stop seeing this as a side gig, because that's what it was up till now. So that's our next goal, is we want to make it a full-time gig and professionalize it a little bit, or a lot, actually. So we feel it's a great place, and we're very excited about it. So that's one thing. The red one's coming back. The red beast's coming back. It's a timing thing where we're going to have stuff custom made too for us. So obviously it requires a little more time, but I guess it's a testament to like solid product and in fairly decent volumes that we're getting more and more like specific components for ourselves to put into our boxes. So.
Yeah, the original model was 100% off the shelf components, and with the new ones we are slowly moving to have more and more custom parts, both because it's hard to find what we exactly need on the market, and because at the end of the day it just adds value.
Yeah, you probably offer very unique features for things that you guys have in mind, physical security or otherwise.
He solders that kill switch devices, you know, those.
Yeah, I mean, all the customers are sold out here in the place we're sitting now.
That's awesome.
By the beach.
Handcrafted, locally sourced financial sovereignty available from nodl.
Yeah, I mean, we
the
try to make a device we like, and we like that, you know, it's our stuff. We like it.
I think it's cool that you guys just, you know, the term dog fooding, right? Of like using what you create. It seems like you guys are doing that to the maximum extent. Like you run your business using the products that you make. You operate it day to day and really live by it. And that's cool to see. I think that instills an even more powerful sense of confidence and stuff.
Yeah, and we also spend the summer probably building out the hosted version of the nodl. So we'll be getting exactly the same features and capabilities in a hosted version. For people who don't have a permanent place, for example, to run their box, or just because they don't trust the physical place they are in, or just for online businesses, they are already online, so it makes more sense to have an online version. And you will still get like disk encryption and all these features.
So that's kind of an interesting in between. Like when you compare that against running it on a cloud provider, like say Amazon, then you know in this case that it's actually a real one of these devices you're creating that just happens to live in this particular region. So like you still benefit from all those physical layer.
Basically, what we want to build is the AWS of Bitcoin.
Nice.
Like the Bitcoin hosting company.
But yeah,
we're a cloud provider.
Yep,
we are
like a cloud provider that probably is very focused on like ensuring that you can't be evil, so to speak, like that all of the security benefits that one would receive from running it inside of their home, you still deliver as much of that as possible remotely.
Exactly.
It feels like it's what Copperhead is doing for the Pixels, like they're doing for the cloud.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I'm not that familiar with the Copperhead though.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's also this like Copperhead versus graphene debate that I don't understand and I'm really afraid to get into because
I don't know either, but it's just cool. They're hardening, like it's great. People are providing hardening at every level. That's cool.
Definitely. Yeah, the spirit of both of those projects, just like securing the full stack is awesome. The more of that, the better.
You know, obviously the surface is different, but we feel there's more people who are ready to enter the space with a little less hands-on approach to it, and they want people to do it for them.
And it's also a great way to try before you buy. You can just rent it for 1 month, try it online, and if you like what you see, you just buy a box.
Yeah.
And you can handle the transfer of your data to your box from the cloud.
I do that with a lot of stuff. I mean, as much as I like tinkering with infrastructure, you know, I move a lot of it pretty nomadic. And so for especially like digital nomad lifestyle where material possessions are a big weight on you, something like that's really attractive.
And you're not the only one, because this idea pretty much came from a lot of people, a lot more people than we would have thought, asking us to do that, which maybe was a little surprising at first, coming from Bitcoiners. Run some stuff for me, okay? And to basically what your day job is, you know, having that like networking, hosting expertise. So
yeah, makes sense.
So that's going to be the part of our summer. Yeah.
Cool. So as far as the rest of this year, I know it's interesting times right now. The world is still kind of gradually, hopefully returning to normal after the lockdown and quarantine. But do you all have any conferences or events or things lined up for the rest of the year, the near future, that you'll be at? You want people to have on their radar?
We pretty much canceled everything outright this year early on, and we didn't have much plans or expectations, but it looks like we will be traveling at least, you know, in Europe a little bit towards the end of the year. We'll probably go to Germany, and we'll probably go to the Czech Republic. There's conferences in Frankfurt and in HCPP in Prague, which we go to every year. those might be the only two we do this year. I don't know. We'll see how the end of the year shapes up, but we'll definitely be there. If we can travel a little bit, we'll probably try to organize what we wanted to do with the samurai guys. Probably in Paris, the first one, because we said we'd have several of those, like in Paris, London, probably one in like Florida. So we might do the Paris one sometime this year. That's about it, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. I'd fly over for that.
International travel will be tricky for at least the next year or so.
Yeah, if the regulators allow it, I'll be there. Nice. Let's see. Anything else that you guys want to say? We appreciate you, coming on and like telling people more about what you've got going on. I think the products that you guys are building, especially with the focus on like privacy and ensuring that users ultimately retain control of their funds, is pretty rad. So very, very grateful that you guys are doing what you're doing. Anything else that you want to say about like how people can find you? Anything you got coming up?
Yeah, so the nodl name was taken probably almost everywhere. So we use nodl_IT on any major social network. We even have an Instagram account. I'm sometimes posting some beard pictures on it.
Oh, awesome.
Hardware porn.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough to get a Sphinx chat invite, go to the tribes page, and there is a nodl group on Sphinx chat as well. So yeah, nodl_IT on Telegram, Twitter, Instagram, Keybase, and that's it.
Yeah, Twitter, the website, and the Telegram are the most.
The website is nodl.it. Many people in the beginning thought we are Italians, but it's just because all the cool extensions were taken.
Love it. Great stuff, guys. Well, cool. Thanks for coming on. And I think this has been really informative. Again, for anybody who's watching on YouTube, sorry that the first portion of this got cut out. We'll try to figure out something to do there, but all of it should have made it to Bitcoin Magazine's Periscope. Also want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Bitcoin Magazine for just helping us, spread the word about this, collaborating as a partner, and getting the message out there about the great stuff that you guys at nodl are building. So yeah, and then the LA SoCal Bitcoin scene is also got another meetup. So later today, there will be a talk from Luke Jr. through BitDevs LA. The Los Angeles Bitcoin community has got a lot of good stuff going on lately. So, tune into that tonight if you can catch it. And then we're going to be doing these events regularly. So we're aiming for every 2 weeks. We're going to cover the rest of our full node series. We'll be talking Raspberry Blitz in the near future. We'll be talking Ronin Dojo and MyNode as well. And then going back to, just regular events, trying to spread the word about Bitcoin. And again, our mission is to just like connect those dots, right? Between the stuff you see on Twitter that you probably don't understand, that most people don't understand, all the like, not your keys, not your coins. If you're not running a full node, you're not using Bitcoin. People who like want to be that, but just the practical, how do you connect those dots? That's what we're trying to have human discussions around. Brian, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add about what we're up to.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, if you're in Orange County or LA, like definitely DM Steven or I, like please join the meetup. We've got a few bars that we're going to try to turn into Bitcoin bars. We're doing it live, and there'll be cahoots in person. So come out and like, use Bitcoin and do Bitcoin with us. Thank you guys for hanging out today.
We love hodling and we love spending. Both. Yeah, and thank you guys very much, Keto and Ask.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's crazy actually that because of this virus, we could assist a LA meetup without being there. So.
Yeah. Everything worked
well.
You got the LA background.
The one before.
We do plan on coming next year. I think Los Angeles is on our radar, so we'll come next year.
Well, keep us posted, and we will do something for sure. And to everyone out there, follow nodl, and we'll line more stuff up in the future.